Let me see.
And we're
live. We're back.
Whoa. Wilhelm in this bitch.
Oh yeah, we didn't even shout him out last episode.
Shout out, love.
yeah.
The man needs no introduction.
Yeah, that's true. He's with us now.
Woo!
He's always with us.
The secret Avenger.
Episode 13?
This is 14, actually.
14.
Yes. See.
We are in double digits. That's so
Very
amazing.
nice.
double digits.
Very
Wow,
nice.
we're over the hump. We're closing in on the end of this season.
Is that
Yeah.
season 1? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 20 episodes will mark the season. But anyway,
Dang.
Yeah, wow.
we're not thinking about the end right now. We're thinking about this episode.
Yeah.
I am Trent L. Dixon,
Trent
one of your
L.
co-hosts. I'm here with my man.
Eclectic.
Oh,
One of them is my
eclectic
man. They're
sage,
gonna
my
say
fault.
something.
I got tripped up because we both looked at Lucas.
Really?
We both looked at it, and I was like, and then I was just like, oh.
Well,
But we got eclectic sage Christian.
Hey.
hey, and Lucas MG, Lucas Gustin,
Lucas MG.
Lucas from Texas, as I'm referred to at
Lucas
work
X.
and
Lucas from
whatnot.
Texas, but recently went to L.A.
Yo,
Promised to tell us about just a little bit about it. Not a lot,
Oh,
just a little bit about
yeah.
it.
Man, I drove a Tesla. It was fun. the traffic is real. I mean, that's a pretty stupid statement.
LA
but
traffic is something that's a different beast.
Is it like, how different is it from New York traffic?
I mean, like, totally, I guess, just because it's like, I mean, it's just like everything is just so congested, really.
Ah.
That's it. It's kind of fascinating to look around and be like, wow, this layout was just not intended to support all these vehicles. And then I was looking around, right? And I'm like, so everybody needs a car to get around. Look how many people there are. More or less every single person has a car. That's a lot of fucking cars.
That is.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's, just a very basic observation, but I was just like, wow. And it's like the little like midway, streets that kind of cut through the city. Like, it's kind of like a neighborhood vibe, but they're like, integral, passageways through the city, but they're just so packed. I'm like, ugh, but whatever. I was in the Tesla, so it was and honestly, there's no like real special luxurious edge on having a Tesla because that's like as common as like a Honda Civic.
So you didn't put the
But-
self-drive on though?
No, I didn't. I didn't
fall
trust
asleep?
it.
I would not trust
did
the
not
self-drive,
trust
I'm
it.
not gonna lie.
Super weird. I don't drive that often now.
I don't think I know anybody who would trust the self-drive.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely
I
not.
definitely would.
It's
not.
just like, why would you really? Like, just drive, you lazy ass. But
Yeah.
but it was so fun, man. Just like, I don't know. I don't know the city that well in terms of like depth and like the real local,
Yeah.
perspective. But really enjoyed like the Echo Park neighborhood. It's really beautiful out there, which is like kind of just northwest of downtown. And I also kind of had my bearings as far as like, if I look at a map now, I can kind of be like, oh, okay, I know what that area is like. Also, Silver Lake area is beautiful. That borders like the Echo Park area. If y'all have ever seen Under the Silver Lake starring Andrew Garfield, absolutely
No, but
incredible.
Andrew Garfield is amazing.
Oh, you gotta watch that one. A complete mind bender, like fun, sad, happy, like makes you kind of like tilt your head, like what? Like really great film, set and shot in Los Angeles, which is just really beautiful. But yeah, it was. Oh my god, I saw like my favorite pro skateboarder ever.
Whoa.
Which I mean, that really took me by surprise when I first lived in New York. But I actually never saw this guy. His name is Alex Olson. For anybody who skates out there, y'all
I'm about to
know.
look him up right now.
Y'all know the vibes. Just great style. He's not like super technical skating, 30 stair handrails and like doing these big gaps. He's just like has a real style and grace to his method. He also doesn't give a fuck like in terms of
Oh wow.
he's just not really like I don't know. He's just like a really laid back dude. Kind of goes by his own standard. Doesn't put out a lot of footage. He
Not
actually
into
kind of like
a celebrity of it.
yeah, not at all. And like he kind of I don't know. He used to skate for Nike, but like I think they were really harping him on like you need to put out parts and footage and da da da. So
Yeah.
he doesn't skate for Nike anymore. But I saw him at this park he was just, I guess he recently became a father and he was just pushing his kid in a stroller. So I wasn't gonna bother him, but like I always
did he look
had
like he was like doing stuff in his head like that he couldn't do if the kid was here.
he looked like he was just like enjoying himself
Good.
on a Monday morning,
Good.
pushing his stroller. So like literally just zenning out. So I was like, I'm not gonna bother him. And my girl was in the bathroom, so I really had prime opportunity. But I was just like, I'm not gonna fuck with him right now. But in my head, it's like, it's good to see you, man. In my head, is what I said.
yeah.
But yeah, it was so great.
Yeah, I'm like looking at like some footage. He looks like a pretty calm dude. But
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. He's very.
He's like he really paved the way, like Team Handsome in skateboarding, like kind of being one of the first guys to like get into like the real like fashion industry and stuff within skateboarding. The late great Dylan Reeder, who's like arguably one of the most handsome skateboarders that's ever lived. He actually passed away sadly in 2016. Yeah, he had
R.I.P.
leukemia. Anyways, they were just like the first guys to like really embrace. It sounds silly, but like being handsome and like taking on modeling jobs and kind of breaking that stigma of like, if you skate, you got to skate and like that's all you do. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah, like being an outcast. I feel
Right.
like skating has
Breaking
like
out
an
of that.
association of being an outcast, or you have to be a delinquent.
for sure, yeah. And like now that's like, I mean, they were on kind of like the cusp and breaking edge of like, you know, breaking that mold, whatever. But anyways, yeah. So it was really fun. And prior to that, this is a good
Dang, it's like
segue
Netflix
out of
skate.
it. But like, I was looking for like really good movies to like get me excited to go to LA. A while ago, I watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, coming fresh off of reading Chaos by Tom O'Neill, which spoke on like the Manson murders and all that.
Oh yeah.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, if y'all have seen it, is actually like incredibly accurate, like down to like the last detail. Actually, El Coyote, the restaurant I wanted to go
Yeah.
to, was in the film because it was the last place that they ate before, you know, the Manson murders occurred, whatever. But anyways, when I watched that film, I was like, wow, like this is really a love letter to Los Angeles. Like it's so beautiful how they played it out.
Yeah, I have to check
But-
out that movie. That's the one Tarantino
Oh,
film.
it's
I-
so
I
good.
Kinda,
I
I
fucking
watched it a
love
few
it.
weeks ago.
you did?
Did you like it?
Yeah, it was good. It was
Okay.
good. It was good.
But
With the
anyways,
exception of the Bruce Lee stuff. But
yeah, that was
that's a whole
crazy.
nother thing. That's a whole
And that's
nother
like,
thing.
I feel like Tarantino taking his nut shots. where
Yeah,
he
that
can.
that was him. A lot of it was a love letter to stunt people too, and that was like him sort of interpreting their interactions with Bruce Lee, of him being arrogant and him being, you know, all these other things and how he's portrayed in the movie. And it's like one thing that somebody brought to my attention about that situation, which kind of made me look at it funny, which made me took a while to watch it because I had to kind of shake that notion. I can still see it in there when I watch it, but you know, he's an Asian actor, martial artist trying to break into, and this, what is this, the 70s, 60s,
early
like
60s.
trying to break into an all white industry.
Yeah.
And you know, they're calling him arrogant, but the thing is, like, you got to consider the amount of racism and all these other walls he's, you know, being hit with. I mean, of course, if
At
you
the
know,
same time.
you believe in yourself, you're going to be looked at as arrogant. It's like, oh,
For
who
sure.
are you to come in here and take our jobs, you know? But
Yeah.
and that's the one thing I think Quentin Tarantino didn't consider, the racial aspect of like all the struggles he was going through.
So what? He was known to be like to
Like,
go
he
real
was-
hard with the stuntmen,
he
or
was
what?
described as being an asshole, you know, by a lot of the stunt people. But I mean, like, he was, whether he was or wasn't, he was more than likely dealing with a lot of racial barriers.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You know, and he was
would-
dealing with a lot. You know, in situations like that, you gotta believe in yourself and go hard.
Oh my god.
You know,
yeah.
and I don't know what the most accurate depiction of, but I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like, you know, that's Bruce Lee.
Right.
You know, and his family also gave some pushback with the portrayal, as they
Yeah.
should. But I mean, other than that, I thought it was a great movie. It's probably the best
Nice.
Quentin Tarantino movie I've seen in a while.
Oh wow. But what LA movies do you like? Like set in LA, you're like, fuck. You know what's great, hands down, La La Land. If
haven't
y'all have
seen
seen
La La
that,
Land.
oh
I
my
haven't
god,
seen La La
I
Land.
am like the
Seen it.
furthest guy from a musical, but like Oh my god, it was so fun to watch. It was just so
I watched
good.
like an observation video on how they colored the scenes based on people's emotions.
Oh wow.
Um,
Yeah, very, very that's a great point. I didn't even think about that, but you feel it without
Yeah.
registering it really.
That's all I really know, so I won't speak onto it like that crazy.
Uh-huh.
But like, yeah, sometimes like for certain movies that I don't like have the time to watch the full thing or I haven't gotten around to,
Uh-huh.
I'll just watch like dissections of it just to like
Nice.
understand it from a filmmaker's perspective and how like little storytelling like beats and stuff that you have
Mhm.
like in the background can really like accentuate and tell like, oh yeah, this is like really cool.
Facts. But yeah, any in particular?
Collateral.
Oh, that's a
Oh.
great one. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Jamie Foxx, directed by Michael Mann, Jada Pinkett Smith, and Tom Cruise, who
Really? Oh.
actually played a villain in that. Who-
Wait,
Oh.
Jada Pinkett Smith?
Yeah, she was in that. She played the lawyer.
Oh, sheesh.
Also, Mark Ruffalo was in there.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Not so
Yeah.
known Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
real.
Yeah, that was
Mark
that was.
Ruffalo has some fire roles.
He
Like
does. He's
What's,
like
what's the
under
one
the-
with the Boston newspaper that he did?
Oh fuck! I know what you're talking about.
Something like.
Oh, Spotlight?
Yeah,
Spotlight.
Oh,
Spotlight.
about like
Spotlight.
the Catholic Church?
Also had
Yeah.
Yeah,
Michael
that one was
Keaton
heavy.
and what's her name? Shit. She was in Mean Girls.
Rachel McAdams?
Rachel McAdams.
Yeah.
Damn,
who
I
had,
didn't know how I knew that.
The
I don't-
biggest crush on for a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, but no, that was a great movie.
I just watched Mean Girls for the first time recently.
Word?
It was good.
Yeah,
a
Mean
lot
Girls
of
is a
shit that
classic.
would not fly today. Where
Of
it's just
course.
like, okay,
Yeah.
like there are a few in there where I'm just like,
You're like, oh,
really, like
Yeah.
just some real low hanging fruit of comedy. I'm like, okay, but. You know, looking through a 2003 lens, I'm like, okay, I see how
Yeah, it works.
that
Yeah.
went through. But fun fact, the principal came into my job the other day.
Oh, word.
Yeah.
Wow,
Oh,
that's
shit. What's his
crazy.
name? I'm blanking on names.
I don't
Because
know.
haven't
I don't know his
had
name,
any
but
sleep.
it was good. It was good. I really, I
He's a
liked
great
it.
actor too. He's a great comedian. He was
Really?
yeah, long time SNL cast.
Oh, really?
member. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. That would make Faye with the make Faye. That would make sense with the Tina Fey pipeline there. But yeah, interesting. So
Yeah.
I've been on a LA wormhole.
Yeah, I have not
Hey.
seen a movie that
But-
was hosted in LA for a while. Most of my movies lately have been hosted in space.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what he is. Oh my god!
Interdimensional.
Oh, that ties into my sort of introduction into our topic today.
Yeah.
Huh.
Rabbit holes.
Whoa.
Rabbit
I
holes.
did have the definition pulled up. I definitely
Did you?
closed it.
Okay, to give the people a very clear definition, because I can tell y'all what it means.
Yeah.
But y'all don't want to hear my fucked up definition.
Well.
As I struggle to remember actors' names.
Oh my god,
Oh,
Christian
man.
has an iPhone now.
Right? Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Crazy.
Blue
no-
bubbles.
with no case.
This dude
I
giving me a
know.
heart
has
attack.
been
Yeah, I know.
loyal
He out
to
here
the
wildin'.
Android life.
I do prefer my Android, but I understand
Really?
the hype for this.
Okay.
Yeah, my friend asked me the other day, like, do you get offended when you see a green text? I'm like, no. Like it does not
Why
bother.
would
It
you?
does not bother me. Like it's
No.
just like, oh, that's a cool color too.
yeah.
But
Both pleasant colors.
right, I'm like
Yes.
blue and green. I like cool colors. Well, rabbit hole is a rabbit's burrow, but basically it's used to refer to a bizarre, confusing, or nonsensical situation or environment, typically one which is difficult to extricate from oneself. So that's like rabbit holes in the sense of like, I don't know, Alice in Wonderland type. rabbit
Oh,
holes.
okay. I
So
was
that's like that's
huh.
one definition.
I was
but
curious.
Okay.
Did that was that coined from Alice in Wonderland?
I would believe.
I believe so. At least,
Oh, wow.
at the very least, it popularized it.
Okay.
Yeah. But the type of rabbit hole
That
that we're talking about is basically what happens when you kind of deep dive into a topic and you kind of become siloed off away from like information outside of that, and you just hyper focus on one thing and keep on digging and digging and digging and trying to find more.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not even like one topic. It's like something leads to another thing, leads to another thing.
Right.
That may have a loose connection, but you always end up somewhere else. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
So I would. So earlier we were speaking and you said you had some scientific background on
Yeah, so well,
rabbit holes.
not maybe not scientific, but I did.
or some insights.
Yes, I
Excuse me.
did. I did watch this. Well, I listened to this series. It was produced by the New York Times. I believe they had one episode, but it was basically talking and like detailing about how internet siloing, or they call it internet siloing, but it's essentially I think we spoke about it in our AI episode, but it's basically when the algorithm kind of incentivizes you to keep on going through like different forms of information, kind of like in the rabbit hole format, where one topic leads to another topic, leads to another topic, leads to another topic, and it kind of chains it down. And they were investigating how like certain rabbit holes led to different types of political views on both sides of the spectrum, and how like internet companies were somewhat responsible for some of like the current political outlook for certain things. So like, for example, if someone was like into conspiracy theories, even in the slightest, they will be constantly like fed conspiracy theories because the company's main thing is to extend and like promote watch time. So like the watch time would be the main priority. So what do you do to promote watch time? You give them more things aligned with the topics that they like. And so they were looking at the different effects and how someone with like regular, like not regular views, but like with no political affiliations or views could become so diehard in either conservatism and liberalism, and how different ways, or how different, basically the ecosystem of how information and people were kind of pushed through different ideologies and everything on the internet.
Yo, I'd be trying to. No lie, I apologize if I die and somebody finds my computer and thinks I'm a weirdo, because I be trying to fuck up with the algorithm all the time. I'll type in random shit and just to see what
You
comes up.
mentioned that,
Just
yeah.
yeah, like I don't know. I don't like only being fed one type of information. Yeah, I was telling you about that. Like how I
Yeah.
looked at one video and now I'm getting like all these certain types of videos, which I don't completely agree with,
Yeah.
but it's still popping up. But no, that's interesting. That that sort of definition or explanation is algorithm based. Because I was thinking last night, like, what was my first, my real first interaction, like my first rabbit holes, and I have two. Some things that I've been like obsessed with as a kid. Black holes
Yeah.
and
Whoa.
tornadoes. Like I remember doing the science project. I probably might have told this before on the podcast.
No, I
I'm
don't
not
think
sure.
so. This
But
is my
I
first time
like
hearing
I
it.
did like a like I remember being it's a long time ago in elementary. I don't remember what grade it was. It was definitely before third grade. But we all had an assignment. You had to pick a planet. At that time, there were 9 planets in our solar system. That's how old I
Yeah.
am.
Hey.
Yo,
Damn.
and I
Shout
chose
out
a black
Pluto, man.
hole. What's up?
I said, shout out Pluto.
Yeah,
that
shout
boy,
out to
that
Pluto.
boy was really a
We
planet
didn't
for a
we
little
didn't
bit.
forget about you, Pluto. It's so cold way out there in the depths. But anyway, yeah. So I don't know. I just like I remember opening a book and seeing this illustration of a black hole sucking the light out of a star, and I was just like enthralled. And I read the definition, like a dead star that is collapsed into itself, whose gravitational pull is just so strong that not even light can escape it. I don't know, like that's something something about looking at that picture triggered something inside of me. The mystery of it, like what is in there, what happens. And like since then I've kind of been obsessed with black holes. Like
Really?
like yeah, that pops up on my YouTube a lot, like
Yeah.
shit about like solar systems, mainly black hole stuff.
I like looking at the math, because the math is so insane when you look at black holes.
I would
Because
not
they,
even know.
yeah, because it's the way that they have to calculate certain stuff. Because it's like it literally breaks, in some instances it breaks physics as we know it.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. And also, like, I'm sure you watched the movie Interstellar too.
Yes.
Yeah, so that movie plays with like the idea of black holes, and like black holes as a concept, like it's so foreign to like our current experience. Like there's no way, like to even have ascertained that there was a black hole existing is like a miracle. Because how do you even perceive
Yeah,
something that
that's-
doesn't even show light? Like we had to
Yeah.
do a lot to find it, and then just the concept of something like collapsing in on itself so much so that it breaks the universe's like regular laws is kind of crazy.
So,
But yeah,
so what are some black hole facts that you've picked up along the years? Because I don't know much.
the spaghetti effect is
What is
probably
that?
one of the most interesting things. It's like so say you're getting pulled into a black hole, right?
yeah.
Okay.
So
I'm
the
envisioning
way-
I'm like turning into
Yeah,
piece
it's
of
like from
string.
far away it seems really slow. But like what the spaghetti effect is like say I'm like head on. Like
Yep.
the front of you will be pulled faster than the rest of you. Although it's still happening at an accelerated
Would this
rate.
like tear
So
your
it'll,
skull
like-
apart? and,
Yeah,
like-
pretty much
Yeah.
it'll be torn in shreds, but
Right.
you know.
But black
Yeah.
hole.
Yeah, it's it's a black hole. You're dead once you're in there. But
Yeah,
yeah,
once you're on it,
it's and I'm terrible with numbers, but I believe like sometimes the mass of a black hole can be like the density can be 1,000,000 times of like the sun, but the size is like the opposite of that. So you got like all this
It's like
it's just
crazy density.
crammed on itself, like all this.
So
Very
would
dense.
would your face start getting ripped off? Is that like an hour process? Or
I mean,
like it's over a few days, or
It's like weird because like it happens to you instantaneously, but because light is not escaping, I assume, not escaping at like the regular rate, it happens slow. Because basically, how we perceive information is just light refracting and bouncing off of objects in certain wavelengths.
yeah.
So like if you were to observe something, it automatically has a delay, like 0.16 milliseconds or something. So it's like in that situation, like you'll just see the person kind of like slowly doing it, but it already happened. Like
Yeah.
crazy fast.
It's
Whoa.
there's like I said, a delay. The time is weird in a black hole as well.
Yeah.
So what's on the
perception
other
of it.
end of a black hole?
That's a lot of
yeah.
theories.
There's a the white hole theory where
yeah, I like the white hole theory.
which sounds really dirty.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, the white hole is like essentially it's the opposite of a black hole. There's another side where all the matter that's being sucked into a black hole
Right.
has been pushed out in a white hole somewhere, which is
Well, that's
crazy.
rather inconclusive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. It's, but I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah.
I know when I was a kid, I was like, yo, I want to get in a special made spaceship and go through a black hole, see what's going on, but I wouldn't.
So I mean, what are
Yeah.
the leading theories on what's on the other end?
I mean, the white hole is one of them.
So would that just be like it's like the opposite?
So
Yeah.
essentially,
universe?
it would make true the statement that there are wormholes, because
Okay,
you would
yeah,
that's
have
what I was
something
about
that has an entry point, takes in matter, and then you have a point where all the matter is kind of just pushed out. And if the 2 points are connecting, that would make sense somewhat.
Okay.
But it's a theory because there haven't been white holes that have been perceived before.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Wouldn't that be
So-
weird though? If like in the white hole, like as matter was being torn, as it was being pushed in, it was being put together. It was being
I
being
was-
pushed out.
I was
Wouldn't that be weird?
trying to think
Yeah.
if
Um,
anybody could possibly survive that, but
I
Probably
don't,
not.
probably not. But also, like, I brought up Interstellar before, and like Nolan's thing was like when he put like the main character. So the main character flies through like the wormhole for a little bit, and then ends up being like shot, not like really pulled spaghetti style, but like pulled through time, or like in his own perception of time, and then he kind of just like navigates, and then the plot continues. But like if it were that like because information technically, like I think one of the laws of thermodynamics, the updated ones, not the ones from like Newton or something, like like I don't know, energy can't be like created or destroyed or something like that.
Yeah.
Well,
Just
they have
like
that.
the law of conservation.
Yeah,
laws
like
or
law of
something.
conservation of energy and stuff.
Can't be created or destroyed.
Yeah, so like if you have to, that law like rings true, and they kind of updated it so like they're like information. So technically, information is like energy, but it's just like any type of like, it's like it's a broader definition. But yeah, if that's true, that means like whatever a black hole is doing, it's just changing the form of whatever matter is doing. If it were to work in line with every other type of physics.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But not to make this episode about black holes, but the
Yeah.
second interaction was with tornadoes. Like I was really obsessed with tornadoes. Like I would, like black holes and tornadoes. Anytime something came on about those as I was a youngin', I'd be in. I'd sit there and watch it or read it.
Is that a
you
Earth black hole? A tornado?
Kind of, sort of. I mean, it's still. I when I see like pictures of tornadoes, I got sort of the same feeling when I saw that
Okay.
rendition of a black hole when I opened that textbook. Like I feel like there's so much mystery in it. It's so dark,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I'm so
Have you ever
curious
seen one?
about it. In person,
Yeah.
no.
Storm
No.
chaser?
No, I wanted to be a storm chaser when I was
Really?
young. Yeah,
That's
I so
exciting.
wanted to be it. But no, like I remember
Twister?
Twister. I hated that movie.
Why?
CGI tornadoes.
Oh, okay. That was what, like 97 or something?
Give it
Yeah,
to-
I was a little kid. I was a little
Give it to a
tornado
better
Nazi.
director.
I was like,
He'll
no. CGI tornadoes, no.
he'll do it all practical.
But no, those were my first experiences. Now, my more recent experiences with I was about to say black holes, with rabbit holes. The other day, I was scrolling through. And I was like, yo, let me, because I was thinking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Okay.
And I was like, let me see what's going on with Jim Jones and Jonestown. So I watched this documentary about it's titled Jonestown. It was Leonardo DiCaprio, I believe, was a producer on it.
Oh, wow.
But it was just so fascinating because I had never really like dove into that story. I kind of knew the basics.
What is that? I don't even know.
So Jim Jones,
Yeah.
he was
New York MC.
essentially
No, not that one.
yo,
His image in my head popped up, but I knew who you were talking about. You're talking
Yeah.
about like that.
I don't know the original Jim Jones.
Oh, the
So
Kool-Aid Man.
the OG Jim Jones. Essentially, what he was this narcissistic preacher. This is the real short version. Who wanted to create this society. A lot of it was based in communism and togetherness and racial harmony. And on the outside, it looked really good, but on the inside, there was a lot of shady shit going on. Essentially, he moved to Guyana, and he had like his own little section, and they called it Jonestown. And it was this cult, and like I said, on the outside, it looked so good. He was adopting children of all races, and it was like, yo, it doesn't matter who you are. This was in the
This was in the
70s.
It had to be.
70s.
It had to be like in the era of like a lot of peace, love, a lot of cults, like a
Yeah.
lot of like
Sounds
60s
pretty
era
60s,
kind
yeah.
of thing.
Yeah, but his was different. Like he really pushed it. But anyway, yeah, like it was all this wild stuff going on. Like he started healing people. Like I said, he was a preacher, and he at some points he claimed to actually be God.
Christianity or
Like offshoot, like it was basically
Yeah,
like
okay.
it's kind of like basically he was like the father of a cult essentially. So basically,
Well,
kind of
like
his own religion?
yeah,
Sort of,
like
Okay.
using. It's basically like with like cults and stuff. I feel like we should do a cult episode.
Yeah, we should.
But
Yeah,
like the
I'm putting that on the
dynamics
list.
are typically that you have a centralized leader, and the centralized leader like says a common doctrine that's like all peace, love, harmony, and whatnot, or like the acceleration of human progress.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is they tend to manipulate people who are like in sadder places, or they kind of weed people out from like
Yeah.
regular life and try to exclude them and isolate them, and then try to like make them convert to like their own
People
whims.
who are longing for guidance.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then, but the results of it are like really sad and tragic.
Yeah, and it's
Tend to be, huh?
it's crazy because, like I said, when I was watching the documentary, and even like a lot of little videos I watched after, it's like he really could have had something going, but he was just so controlling. It was like if he heard that somebody was trying to leave, there was a couple things they would do. They would beat the shit out of you, and they have like tapes and
Wow.
like audio of like him just like they'll just like whoop it up on people.
Oh my gosh.
Or they would drug you, and it's crazy though because a lot of people, like when they would see like the healings and the miracles happening, that's what he would do too. Like he healed this woman's leg, and everybody believed it, but what turned out was they drugged her. And when she woke up, they had put her in a cast. It's like, yo, you slipped and fell, but Jim Jones gonna heal you tonight. You know, come to the ceremony, and then like, yeah, he would put hands on her and say a few words like, we're gonna cut the cast off you, and I want you to walk. And then she'd start running up the aisle, and people would go crazy.
Oh, shoot.
But yeah, anyway, like I said, eventually they moved to Guyana.
Where were they from?
These are all people from America, different parts of America. Like
Where was he at? His station.
Where was he from? What the fuck was he from? It was somewhere in the South.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely somewhere in the South. But anyway, like it sort of came to a boiling point when people started like, you know, the truth started coming out little by little. Like he would make people, he would separate people from their children to keep people from leaving. So it was kind of a communal raising. Like he would put children in different households with different parents, so people couldn't conspire, and also to keep, you know, people under control. You know, if your kid's here and your
Right.
kid's being brainwashed and your kid wants to stay, more than likely you'll want to stay.
Yeah. Jeez.
But yeah, like some people had escaped and then they had told their story to the news. So essentially they sent this guy called Congressman Ryan, who I'm gonna look more up on because he
Okay.
sounds like a badass. And
Congressman Ryan is fired up.
yeah. Maybe you can tell me more about him. But he you know, he was sent in with like a news crew and stuff to check it out, and it all led to like a shooting.
Oh,
And
no.
essentially, like because he was trying to take like planes of people away, people who wanted to leave. So I think Congressman Ryan ended up dying in it.
Really?
Yeah. But anyway, like before people could, you know, before there were certain people, there were groups of people who left, but there were still like over 900 people there, and he had planned this. Basically, essentially, he had planned this mass suicide, but really it was
Whoa.
murder. So it was like everyone was drinking Kool-Aid laced with cyanide. It was really Flavor Aid, but you know, Kool-Aid just sounds better.
Yeah,
Right.
that's where the phrase "don't drink the Kool-Aid" comes from.
Yeah.
Really?
So,
Yeah.
and it was like I forgot how long it would take to kill an adult, but he handed it out, and like there were a lot of people. Well, first what he did was he started with the kids. He would force the kids to drink it, so the parents would, you know, they
How
would
big
see
was the
that.
commune at this time?
This was, I think it was like over 1,000 people, but essentially, it was. I think the death toll was like 910 people ended up dying. Murder suicide,
a
which
lot.
really it's a murder because like
Yeah.
Yeah,
people
some
who
murder.
didn't want to take it, they were injected with cyanide.
Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
And he was such a bitch himself. Like he drank it and he couldn't take it and he shot himself.
Oh
while
my
other people
God.
like had to suffer.
Yeah, no.
Like it was crazy.
I can't believe you haven't seen these photos.
Yeah, those photos are crazy. Like seeing them, like it took them
Yeah.
What?
so long to
It
count
was so
all the
many
people.
It was so many people in the
This was in Ghana? Or
Guyana.
Guyana?
Yeah, Guyana is
Did I
like
say
a,
Ghana or did I say Ghana?
No, you
you
said
said
it
Guyana.
right.
Okay,
No,
okay,
Guyana is like a it's a part of the Caribbean islands technically, but it is on South America, like on the top portion, but they still call it like that Caribbean,
Jeez.
like
Yeah.
part
so
of the diaspora. It's weird.
what happened? He just like pulled the plug and
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
he, like,
people
did a
were
mass
gonna
suicide.
leave and they were gonna expose him.
jeez.
Yeah, that's like a cult leader thing. But
Yeah, that I mean, what was the one where like everybody was wearing the Nike Cortez shoes? That was like
Oh, like
it
a
had
cult?
something to do with extraterrestrials, yeah, but like everybody was wearing
Wait, what?
Nike Cortez and extraterrestrials.
That
Um,
sounds like a fire Lupe Fiasco album. Like,
It was oh god,
like,
not so much.
That would be tough.
But no, it was the it might have been Heaven's Gate, but they had blankets over themselves, and
Oh, yeah, like
everybody
the
was
cult.
wearing Nike Cortez shoes. Anyways, but no, that's interesting. I had maybe loosely heard of that, but I always kind of overlooked
yeah,
it.
same. And I just kind of
Yeah.
like that. And for some reason, last night I went on a nuclear weapon rabbit hole.
Probably because
Whoa.
Oppenheimer's floating around. So as
Like,
a
it-
recording,
honestly, I don't even know the background of Oppenheimer. It just
So
kind of
Oppenheimer,
it's like
yeah, Oppenheimer talks about
stupid.
the development of the nuclear bomb in relation to the Manhattan Project. So the Manhattan Project was just basically they were trying to create a bomb off of like some physics that they just were kind of discovering to kind of end the war, World War II. And it talks about like the director, I forgot his first name, but Dr. Oppenheimer, and his life and how he was like heading the project in Los Alamos. Los Alamos was a built city that they kind of created, and it was basically like a testing site for the first nuclear weapon. And it starts the story like that. And then those bombs ended up like sadly and tragically hitting Nagasaki and Hiroshima respectively,
Yeah.
which single-handedly changed the world. We talked about, well, I mentioned it before, but like it talked about like postmodernism and like that type of like framework of like we made it to the point where we could kind of destroy ourselves in a sense with just a single weapon.
It's wild.
But yeah, I feel like a lot of rabbit holes tend to form around like topics of taboo or like something like morbid. That's like stems from a morbid curiosity type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what do you think? Why do you think we look into like rabbit holes, especially on the internet?
I mean, I think essentially it's like I said, it's kind of taboo. It's we're kind of studying human nature, and in essence, kind of looking at things in ourself
Yeah.
that we may not have seen, or maybe we refuse to look at, and we kind of see that through other people, and and also it's interesting, it's easy to look at those kind of tragedies and things, and it feels so far away. And sometimes it feels close, but it's easy when things like that are far away. It's easy to also judge and to put labels on. But the deeper you dig, just like the Jim Jones thing,
Yeah.
it was like all these people were regular people. It could easily happen to anybody, and that's what the relatability comes in.
I feel like with a lot of things, like there's not much separation. Like the more you look into it and the more information you get and the older you get, in terms of like this, there's not much in terms of separation from me from this experience. Like this experience is available to me. Like it could be like you look at like, I don't know, someone in like a penthouse and you're just like, wow, that's so distant. But like in all honesty, they're like, it is distant because of systemic things, but in general, like that person is no different from you in terms of like, they're still a human being.
Yeah, once you start learning their story,
Yeah.
you start to humanize them.
You start to humanize them, so it's not like an object. And same thing, like if you watch like a movie and you're like, if I was that character, like would I make the same decisions, or like would I be like capable to or susceptible to like certain like causes that would like lead me down this type of path, like Sean did, like the Jonestown situation.
I see. What had you mentioned some rabbit holes you've gone down, Christian?
I know your rabbit holes are interesting as hell.
Yeah, I go down a lot of rabbit holes, honestly. Yeah, I feel like with the internet, it allows you to go through rabbit holes a lot easier. And
Okay.
I feel like it incentivizes it, which is not great all the time, because sometimes just because of the nature of information and how we get information, it can lead you down, like depending on who or what sources you listen to, you could come out of a rabbit hole in a very different spot.
Yeah,
Which
It's
is
true.
And it's hard because I feel like as human beings, like we love information, and information is like talk about like a drug or something. Like information just satisfies like our innate need for like our curiosity,
Kind of meaning, yeah.
Yeah, our need to like understand the unknown, because like I feel like it stems, like, not to go dark, but I feel like it stems from death. So like death is just like, or like death or the fear of the fear of the unknown is like the main driver for a lot of actions. So like
It's true.
making the unknown more knowable is like a combat against like your like fears or suspicions, like kind of just trying to illuminate the darkness. But like with a rabbit hole, basically you're trying to tunnel. It's basically like trying to make your way through a tunnel to like see the light at the end of it and trying to gain clarity on a situation. So
Bars.
yeah, but yeah, with rabbit holes, I have a lot. I've been diving into a lot of like systems ones. So like I'm reading about how different like political systems have come and failed and stuff, or like how systems and institutions kind of like help or fail people. So like, especially in the form of disasters, like I always shout out this podcast, but like well, There's Your Problem was a fun one. Shout out to the host, all respective to all three of them and the guests that they have. But they talk about like things like Chernobyl, and I remember like I think it was like the first time we hung out, I was talking about like having watched the Chernobyl documentary, and it's just like crazy that it's just a compilation of just like different small mistakes that led to like a catastrophic nuclear like fallout. Not fallout in the sense like a bomb was dropped, but like a lot of damage was done, and you still can't visit the area per se. And it was just like mishandling.
Although that doesn't stop people.
Yeah, and like the more like same thing, the more you learn about it, it's like, oh my gosh, like this is so obvious. But there's a lot of times like when that happened, like recently, I watched on the news. It just happened recently as a recording, but there was like a crane that fell in Hell's Kitchen.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing
Yeah,
that.
like, and I'm sure like the more you look at that, it's probably like a similar situation in the sense that like there were obvious signs that like, hey, maybe this is not
Yeah.
the best use of it.
Wasn't that even kind of that principle was the case in the Titanic submarine?
Yeah, like most human failings are like in that type of disaster setting are usually like they call it like social murder because it's just like a culmination of a bunch of like ways that the systems are built that kind of like or like systematic failings, like the captain was warned or something, or like there were definitely instances or like warnings that happened before for the Titanic. Same with like the it's kind of not trending anymore, but still needs to be talked about, like the submersible with all the billionaires in it.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
like-
what I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, like there were the fact that they were controlling it with a gaming controller, and they were advised, and it wasn't like certified by like the commission that certifies
Yeah.
submarines to float. There's like stuff like that, like oversight. So that type of rabbit hole I've been in. Also a rabbit hole for like media in general.
You been on World Star or what?
Nah, not
Question
violent.
real
The
quick,
shade room.
Going back to the human failings.
Yeah.
When you come out of that rabbit hole, do you feel like in some way does that make you feel more prepared for situations? Does that make you more aware?
Not
Of
really.
certain things.
Not really. I try to come out of it as neutral as possible because, like, I try to be optimistic and believe in like the human spirit because I feel like, yes, I feel like it's a mix of collectivism in terms of like human failings and human success because it takes a team to do like most, if not everything. But there are instances where like one person can make a huge difference. Like all it takes is one person to be like, hey, let's not deploy tonight. It may suck, but let's not deploy the ship because the water's just too choppy. And there's a lot of unsung heroes because nothing happened.
Yeah.
Yeah,
real.
And
you never know because
never
it
know.
didn't happen.
But like there's instances where it's just like some calls are made and it just takes one person in the chain
Yeah.
of command to just say no.
Yeah.
We're not
and
doing this.
Prevent that tragedy from
So
occurring.
I try to when I go into rabbit holes, I try to kind of put into perspective like the opposite, not the opposite, but like the grander scheme and being like, okay, what I'm watching or like what I'm trying to learn about is very biased. And I feel like when you talk about rabbit holes, it's important to recognize bias.
Yeah,
And like what you're
certainly.
seeing. So like let's say you're watching like a documentary or something. The person that's making the documentary has a certain feeling and opinion, and automatically when you
And they
create
have
art
an objective.
and they have an objective, like we were saying in the photography episode, like when you take a photo, it's as soon as you take that photo, you have an agenda. So trying to kind of pick through that separate from it is like important too when I go on these rabbit holes. But what type of rabbit holes have you been like in? I know a James Dean rabbit hole.
Definitely. That one's kind of like always ongoing. But you know what's interesting is like I was telling somebody about this. I can't remember, but I'll kind of like purposefully like cut my rabbit hole jumps a little short just
Yeah.
because there's a very finite amount of information that is available. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know. I gotta say, pretty like unanimously, my rabbit holes always like lean into like conspiratorial stuff for
no,
sure.
but they'd be pretty good.
And that's kind of what I think of when I think of a rabbit hole. But lately, there really hasn't been too much. I think I'm mostly, I mean, I've definitely done like some heavy 9/11 rabbit holes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just like like jumping into a well that doesn't have a bottom. Like, there's just
Yeah, it's
so
'cause
much
it's-
stuff there. But whether it be factual or not, but I've seen some pretty compelling stuff, I guess. And truth be told, I haven't looked too much into like the official like Warren Commission narrative as
Yeah.
much, but I guess that's something I could explore more. But it's not something I look into like all too often. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty surface level conspiracy theory when it comes to rabbit holes. Like a lot of JFK stuff too, which is
Yeah.
pretty compelling. I mean, that one is just like insane. I don't know if y'all have a
I watched
hot
that movie.
take.
I remember you were like, watch this movie. So I did watch the movie.
What'd you think?
I don't know.
That was like 98 or something. That was a while ago.
Yeah, that was that. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like just looking at the systems, I feel like they just did not at that time,
Mm-hmm.
especially like in retrospect when you look at like how, like, who was the member of the Beatles that passed away like through public thing? Like,
John
there was-
Lennon.
Yeah, there were just like a lot of instances where like the person should have been protected more,
Right.
but they just were not. Like now it doesn't happen as often because like
For sure.
also there's cameras, there's CCTV, there's like
Mhm.
people have personal bodyguards, people are like more like aware that that's a possibility. Like it's not like they walk around, like they have personal assistants for certain things,
Right.
and then if they do go out, they go out like within reason, or like
Yeah.
they go out in a city where like it's not like they're not going to be walking around
Out here.
even
Yeah.
in New York City. Like it's not as bad.
It's true.
Because if someone famous walks around in New York City, you're like, hey, what's up? Unless it's like a first
Yeah.
shoot, and then like people pop up, but like it's not like the people are trying. Like the worst you'll see is like, I don't know, somebody throws a shoe at somebody
Right.
at like performers, but like other than that, it's not like they're gonna like pull out a gun per
Mhm.
se. It does happen.
Right.
There have been sad like tragic
Yeah.
instances of that, especially with like in the music community. That happens a lot.
Mm-hmm. But for again JFK specific,
for JFK,
is it as plain as the Warren Commission laid it out for us?
I feel like the facts were kind of true on that one. It's some of the weird
Facts being
like the fact that what was his name? What was his
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah, Lee Harvey Oswald was an interesting like person with a lot of weird.
Who did
Contradictions.
have CIA affiliations
Yeah, but I
on
don't think
paper.
I don't think the CIA got him, but also he had
Okay.
a lot of political enemies too at the time. So
Okay.
I understand where the conspiracy goes to.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's hard to even like come definitive.
Right.
But, like,
I agree.
but yeah, I don't think, more so likely than not, I don't think it was a lot of. I feel like some of it was personal vendetta, but also what motive? Like his motive is like so elusive because he was taken out so soon after the thing, and there's no
less than 24 hours.
yeah, less than 24 hours. He was just kind of vanished. So that I feel like prompts so many of the conversation, so much of the
Mhm.
conversation in the rabbit hole
Right.
per se, because it was just the way that like it wasn't a systemic failing in that sense. It was
Mhm.
just like just per chance like the fact that he committed the heinous action and then
Allegedly.
allegedly and then was and then was killed like within a span of time.
Right. Less than 24 hours.
Yeah, less than 24 hours is just like kind of, it's like I understand because like
Yeah.
a lot of times human beings try to make sense out of information that we're given, and that even if you just say it, it's just like, wow, this is like something seems fishy. But I don't know. For me personally, I don't think it's that crazy.
Do you think he pulled the trigger and we'll rest it?
I think he did. But also
Really?
like,
And you
yeah,
think he killed him?
yeah,
Alone?
maybe I think so. I think he did. I think he did. Just give it-
Listeners, drop a comment. Let
Yeah.
us know what y'all think.
I think he did. I think he did.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
I don't know how the heck he
crazy.
landed those shots.
Oh, the ballistics are just offensive.
But, yeah, but you know,
But
you get lucky at
I
least 3
respect
times.
your decision or your
My opinion.
analysis.
So wait,
Yeah.
how many times was he shot?
He was shot 3 times.
3 times, but the
But-
succession of the shots was like crazy.
I mean, he fired off like it was like a pump action rifle to where you have to
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
you know, and
it was,
like he
3
shot
shots really
3
quick.
off in like less than 6 seconds and
So
nailed a headshot the 3rd try. But also there was a motorcycle recording from one of the police officers, and there were more gunshots than 3,
Yeah.
which is interesting stuff.
Yeah, but you
But I
you
don't
visited
know.
the area, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Dallas, Texas native. Yeah, there's a big kind of obscene X right in the middle of the road where he was shot.
See, that is very odd.
It's a little grotesque.
That's a little, yeah.
I mean, you've seen that, right?
yeah. But humans are weird. Like
We are kind of weird like that. But yeah, JFK, yeah, I mean that was a big one. Whenever I get like really into somebody, then I'll like really do a deep dive on
Yeah, like you had a Beatles rabbit hole for a little bit.
Oh yeah, that was huge. That was huge. I mean, it still is huge. And like, I'll actually, I guess, since we're on the topic of rabbit holes, I'll also kind of like siphon off the rabbit hole too, because like a lot of my stuff, or I guess for the most part, information is like, especially things in the past, like there's only a finite amount, you know.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
like huge, like again, as you said, when I was on my Beatles tip, it was like the White Album. But for example, I mean, how many albums did they have? We'll say 6 to 8.
Yeah.
I've listened to like maybe only one of them in full, and that's the one that I've been on, which is the White
Yeah.
Album. But like again, I'll
It's a
purposefully
wealth of like
leave.
stuff.
Yeah, like I like okay, you know, boom, I hit that. I'm gonna go on to the next thing, and then I always end up circling back, but I'll still have like this complete, you know, untapped gold mine like to dive into with a fresh set of ears or whatever. But I don't know. That's something that I've noticed I've done, especially as I get older. I realize that I'm always looking back. Like I'm never like looking, and strictly in terms of like what really like sparks my interest. I'm always looking like backwards instead of like, oh, like 2050 or something.
I was
You know
just
what I
about
mean?
to ask, what do these rabbit holes say about us as people, like us?
Oh,
in this room?
That's a great question. I think for me, I'm pretty naturally inquisitive. Sometimes I seek answers that perhaps I'm better off not knowing. But I guess that's also just part of like the odd kind of inquisitive nature of human beings. And also maybe questions that I know I'm not going to fully get the answers to. But just that kind of like mystique is perplexing and kind of like draws you in. But I think that like for me also, I think that like I'm a little like off-wired, I guess, or just like a little like just kind of like odd for lack of a better word. So like the kind of offbeat weird stuff like kind of like piques my interest. And then again, for whatever reason, like diving into like things of the past. But like, how do you look into the future?
I mean,
Yeah.
I think like through studying technology and things like that.
Okay.
and where
Yeah,
things are
yeah. I
going,
think
you
it's
know.
very.
And also,
But
I
even
mean,
then-
part of that probably would be looking into the past too, like studying patterns and, you know, things like that.
Right,
Yeah.
success stories of the past. But for me, I think I think it's a reflection of my personality and whatnot. What do y'all think?
What do you think, Trent?
About Lucas's?
No, about like
Analyze me. No, about
This
your
is
own.
the psychology
Yeah.
episode. No,
you know, right?
I don't know. I think like especially like with black holes and tornadoes, I think it's gosh, this is gonna be a drinking game. How many times does Trent use the word existential? I think this is a very existential thing. Or we even with nuclear bombs, like things that are much bigger than me and like inspire this sort of
It's like all
awe and wonder and it's like where does that go? Where does it come from? You know, these things that things that tend to like spark my imagination. You know, that inner kid in me, like, wow, like I wanna. That's such an a mysterious place to go, and I wanna see it. I wanna experience it in some form or fashion. You know, I think a lot of it, especially with the first two, they're things that feel so unreal. You know, I think that's where sort of my fascination with certain things come from.
Do you
know?
sometimes like go like next to skyscrapers and just like look up for a little while?
Sometimes.
Yeah, I can tell. Like I don't know. Sometimes because like especially when you like look at skyscrapers in the city, the sense of feeling that you feel when something is so much taller than you is like, it's such a strange feeling. It doesn't have a word. There's no word.
Insignificant.
Yeah, it's like seeing
yeah,
something
small.
so grand, but also it's just like so magnificent because you see all the details in the structure. So it's a mix.
I also think like, but man, in all reality, the skyscraper itself is pretty small. Like
Yeah.
if you zoom
Yeah.
out, like even that's kind of
Nothing.
at the
Like when
same
you come in a
time.
plane.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
especially when you come over the city, it like looks like little like
Yeah.
figurines. It doesn't look
Yeah.
real.
Right. And then so I guess it's a matter of perspective.
It's a matter of
really.
perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. But okay, I think that's insightful. I mean, tornadoes and black holes, to me that sounds like forces of nature that we can't reckon with, and then
Yeah.
like the deep unknown.
Yeah.
You know, those are the two
The deep
attributes
unknown,
that
that's things
Yeah.
we can't control.
Yeah.
that's interesting. What about you, Christian?
I feel like I like understanding ecosystems and my place within the world.
That's
And,
good.
like, and I feel like
Perspective.
yeah, and I feel like a lot of that also stems from like wanting to make changes in like the world around me and understanding like the current ways and dynamics that things work, so then I could at least contribute to like new feedback loops. So like basically like a feedback loop is like when you give somebody, when like let's say you give like a mouse cheese, right? And then the mouse is able to do the maze. So then you give it a more intricate maze, and then you put the cheese, and then it keeps on feeding, like you feeding like the positive
Action
behavior.
reward essentially.
Yeah, action reward type of thing. So it's basically like, and it's basically like incentivizing certain actions over others. So like trying to see the ways in which that happens in the real world, and trying to change seeing like ways in which that could be changed to like for the better. Because I always think about like ways in which I could change the world.
Young gun.
Right?
Wow.
No, yeah,
Such
that's
a great
great.
kid.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
But like I don't know when you like Trey looked at me and was like, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Like I can. That was my sort of takeaway. Is like you like to see how things are constructed and put together, and how they like the inner workings of it.
Yeah.
You remind me
The
of like
engineering,
when kids like take things
Yeah.
apart to see how they.
Yeah, like
You know, works
that's
so they
why
can put it together.
I like that one. I do like. People are like, why do you do computer science and like art at the same time? Like, how you
Oh,
why
wow.
are you a
Yeah.
rapper and you do computer science? I'm like, they're the same thing.
Yeah.
Like they're
Wow.
when you make anything, you have to like see the inner workings.
Yeah,
and,
you
like,
have
study.
to see all the smaller parts
To, like,
that
to
have
make
come
something-
together, to make something bigger.
Yeah, and then like we live in something like bigger. Like the scale of things is so weird. Like you can have supermassive like black holes, but then at the same time, that supermassive black hole from far away, like I don't know,
It's
affects
still
how
part of the solar system. Like
Yeah.
this, it's still a smaller part of this bigger thing.
right.
Yeah, that's facts. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I feel like I could broaden my horizons a bit on my my black holes.
No,
or
but-
my,
No, but I
my-
mean,
I like your rabbit holes because I feel like
Yeah.
it speaks to the, like we said in the nostalgia episode, like the culture of like looking backwards rather than looking forwards, because like the future looks so dire. Like a lot of the media that we represent is like, I don't know, the cyberpunkish type of aesthetic, or like Blade
Yeah.
Runner type of thing, or like Dune, or like something like so like removed, or like something like so staked in like the current world's problems that, and it just continues on, and like it seems so dry and like dreary, and
Right.
like so like looking backwards and trying to gauge information and understand how like maybe like looking back and understanding how it went then, or like how these stars seem so like how the dynamics of things seem so much purer. I think that speaks to like your nature to make like pure art in like your life.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a good way to put it. And I think I could maybe like use my listening time to like be maybe just a little bit more like useful. But in terms of like maybe I could, I don't know, like some historical. Well, actually, shit,
Yeah.
that's looking
Yeah,
back.
it
But
is
like maybe
historical.
like some real like
History's
useful
important.
information.
I mean, yeah, if it informs you and your art, then it's useful.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's very true. And I guess
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, how could I contribute more to like other things, you know, and like be more of a benefit to like other people? But I think where something like that would lie within myself is it would be like something I really love as of lately too is just like kind of like architectural history. Like that's
Oh my
pretty
gosh, I
interesting.
love that.
So
I love that. I'm sorry, I'm a
Thrasher
nerd for that.
If y'all know Thrasher magazine,
I
it's
do,
like
I do.
okay, so it's like skateboarding's like really kind of like most prominent North Star. Everybody kind of follows it, but they just started this series with this guy named Ted Barrow, who he used to do this really brilliant thing where kids would send in their skate clips. And then he would critique them. He's an art historian, so he would give them like
That's fire.
I mean, and he's been skating for probably 30 years. He's an older guy. He has a good podcast called Tent City, but
I'm gonna give it a
so
watch.
he would always critique like again like just the tiny little nuances of like decades of skateboarding, like your pants are too big or like your shoes don't fit or like your trucks are too tight, and like he would just rip these kids apart, but in like a fun like you know like take notes from a OG type shit. But anyways, he actually just got his like a PhD in like art history, I believe.
Wow.
So with Thrasher, they partnered up and they started this series called This Old Ledge, which is basically they will go around. They're starting in San Francisco right now. That's where he lives, and that's where Thrasher's headquarters is at. But they'll go to like these old spots that people have been skating since like you know street skating like evolved, and he'll just do like a really thorough, like comprehensive, like dense breakdown of like the architects, who they were, the you know society at large at the time, why it was built, you know how it affected like the neighboring communities and like how it drew skateboarders in, and really just like the whole history behind it. So far they've done 3 episodes, but I mean they're incredibly interesting, and I'm like, man, that's actually like a really cool skill set to have, to be able to like just inform, you know, I guess like people like that. And also like coming from like, you know, like a PhD doctorate, like usually it's just like heavy metal and skate clips, you know what I mean? So like to kind of like share that, I think that's pretty
To
important as
add
well.
like a academic structure
Absolutely.
to the situation.
And there's like no real like textbook or like written history of like skateboarding as well. So my
feel like
theory
that's
is
a
that
good
he
endeavor.
might kind of like
Be the forefront
take
of
up that
Yeah.
responsibility, because I mean it's really important information that, and I mean if that was in you know like the early 60s, like that's getting to be quite some time ago, so those
Yeah,
people
I
won't
feel
be
like that's a
around.
story that got to be told, because
For sure.
like as you were talking about it, I just like had a thought about like the ways in which like created spaces facilitate behavior that's not intended,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that like the
exactly.
architects never intended to like have skateboarders in that thing, but then they just had specific design quirks that like led to people like making a space within the
that
space.
is pretty interesting.
And
Yeah.
I feel like that's also like we were talking about earlier. I don't know if it was this episode or last episode, but we're talking about like how skateboarders are often seen as like outcasts and things like that. But I feel like that outcast mentality is like very revolutionary, especially like when you hear like Kick Push and Lupe Fiasco, in the sense that they have to take something take a space that's not made for them and make something out of it.
Side note off of that, something that I've really not been able to escape like mentally lately is just the fact that have y'all ever heard of Born and Raised? It's like a clothing company from Los Angeles. Anyways, they're like a Cuddy, you know, smaller but still big clothing brand. But their founder, he passed away tragically, like I think like last month. But it's like kind of in like the league of like, you know, Supreme and
Yeah, streetwear.
exactly, yeah, streetwear. But his name was Sponto, Venice, California, like born and raised, complete native. I believe he was in his like mid to late 40s. But
Oh, he's
anyways, I watched this piece on him from like a few years ago, just talking about how the brand grew and everything. But you know, on the point of like the social outcast and stuff, something that he said that I was like, damn, because I was familiar with the brand, not familiar with their story and everything, but something that really resonated with me about what he said was just that, like, he's like, you know, we grew up with like nothing, like, you know, hardly anything, like no new clothes, like no new nothing, but we had a lot of good food, like we had a lot of great family around. And he's like, you know, we were dead broke, but he's like, now like the rich people want to be like the poor people, like, and he's like, I'm glad that I didn't have like all this like wealth and, you know, stability as a kid growing up, because like that gave me like the heart, soul, and like mentality and outlook to like go out and get it. But he's like, now it's ironic because those same kids that I grew up with that were rich, now they want to be like me, like, you know, because they don't have like that gravity and reality of like having to navigate life like that. And I was just like, damn, like, and somebody that I actually won't dox for point of reference, but somebody who comes from a lot of money, and I guess from my own shallow opinion, like they don't have that great of a style, but they buy a lot of expensive stuff.
Yeah.
And even looking at the history of those brands who started really small, it's like, wow, that's interesting. Like you can come from like a lot of money, but like you always kind of revert back to like where like the heart and soul is of stuff. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And skateboarding, I think, as well, is a pretty you know, big idea of that concept.
Yeah. I guess we could talk about it. Remember when we were walking on Fifth Avenue, and we ended up in like this little art gallery thing?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's like so for context, we were just walking, me and Trent and a friend. Shout out John. I don't think he listened to the podcast, but
I get a shout out anyway.
yeah, you get a shout out anyway.
If you ever listen, you got a little Easter egg. For
Yeah.
yourself.
Hey. So,
save it, put it in your.
we
pocket.
were walking, and then we happened to walk into like this fine art gallery and on Fifth Avenue, and they're selling like expensive works. And it's very interesting how at points it can be a very cynical process, but in the ways in which like that art and the way that the wealthy consume it is so different from how like how like an average person would consume it. Because for them it's like an investment value, which I understand, because it's like you take the piece of art and then you have a value to it, and then you're able to trade it for a common sales and goods. But sometimes, like in some instances, like let's say for the example where like Banksy had shredded his art in the thing, and it became more valuable as a result, like, and that was like trying to be a protest against wealth and everything. How it kind of like how it kind of cannibalizes itself, and that type of revolutionary behavior doesn't really work in that setting too.
Yeah.
Which is odd, because like it's odd because it's like they like the reflection, like people of wealth like the reflection that they see
of what? Like
of the critique
Yeah.
of them.
Oh,
Which
okay.
is weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, not weird, but like it's interesting.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Yeah, because it's that's interesting. Where was that gallery at on Fifth?
That was on it was on Fifth Avenue. I don't remember.
It was close to it was a few blocks away from Central Park. Columbus. It was close to Columbus Circle.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
we
that
were-
sounds.
Yeah, it was like
prestigious.
around that area. Yeah, and it was just interesting having the conversation with the gentleman in the gallery.
Why was he down to earth, or he was out of it? Or
No, like he was because at first
I was telling him I had the exact. It's probably the same guy, but when D and I first came to New York for the first time, we had the exact same interaction inside of an art gallery. But I'll let you tell it.
What was the
Yeah.
interaction?
yeah, so
Like, get out of here, or what?
no, so like at first it was just kind of like we're just floating around, but like in typical I'm not supposed to be here like fashion, like Trent and I got into like a really deep conversation. We saw some like Andy Warhol, we saw like
Oh, wow.
some Basquiat pieces.
Damn, they
And
were on
also
display.
some Mr. Brainwash as well. It
Yeah,
was
Mr.
actually
Brainwash.
a kind of a Mr. Brainwash exhibit with other artists.
What's his main work again?
Remember, he's the
Super
guy
familiar
who
with.
copied Banksy.
Oh,
Who kind of got hit, who like springboarded off of Banksy.
Oh,
Was he with-
somebody's gonna beat you up in the comments in the future for that.
That's
one.
fine.
I mean, that's fine,
You,
but
it's
it's true.
y'all get in line, man.
Y'all get
on.
on. Ja
He
Rule.
got the belt
I
again.
got belts for all.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a shirt like that with a belt.
Fighting off the
So-
horns. Get back.
So yeah, what was the vibe in there?
So yeah, we entered the gallery, and it was kind of like, it wasn't like a dismissal. It was kind of just like, when a customer walks into a store, it's just like you think nothing of it.
Yeah.
You're not really trying to make the sale to everybody, especially with that type of expensive type of thing.
And I think the vibe was kind of like we're just like we don't. It was kind of like we don't belong. sort
Okay,
of.
I would
And it was kind of
think walking into a Columbus Circle, yeah, unless you're like,
yeah,
I don't know,
But
yeah,
the weird thing about like wealth, especially in New York City, particularly, like it comes in all shapes, forms, colors, races,
That's very
creeds. So
true.
it's funny because as depends on how you can speak and like convey information. Sometimes they believe like you have more wealth than you do,
mm-hmm.
which speaks to what wealth is as like a perception thing.
Right.
But that's for another episode. But yeah, we walk around the gallery, start talking about like the art. We're sitting and like actually like digesting it because a lot of times people just want to take a picture,
yeah,
be like, oh wow, look at this expensive thing, and then but we're like actually talking about it, talking about the history of the thing. So then he approaches us, tells us about the history, and then tries to like make the sale because we're like obviously like in the gallery for a long time, talk about the art decently. So he's like,
Right.
he's assuming at this point, like, hey, we probably have.
And these are Basquiat and Warhol pieces for
Yeah.
sale?
So
Yeah,
Salvador
shit.
Dali he had in there.
Oh yeah, he had a doll.
What?
Yeah,
It
like
was
a rough sketch.
Yeah, like something he did on a napkin.
How much were they? Did they have the prices?
He told us some of the prices. I forgot.
The lowest one that he had
Ballpark?
was Peter Max. He was a psychedelic artist in the '60s. Did a lot of the
a lot of Beatles.
a lot of
artwork.
Beatles
Really?
artwork.
Specifically, was it like Yellow Submarine? Was it that one?
I think so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah, a lot
yeah.
of-
But
that's like
his
quintessential
the low
60s.
he was probably like the lowest priced one. He was a favorite one. He had
Okay.
that was a beautiful art piece. I want to get
Yeah,
that one. I'm not gonna lie.
same.
But that one was for 7,000.
Actually, there was one for 3,000.
Oh, there was one
I
for
think there was one.
3,000.
It was like around 3,000.
slight-
Yeah, 3,000 the lowest. The highest they had like a couple $1 million ones in there.
You don't know Basquiat or Warhol, what they were?
I think that one was
I
like
don't remember.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was a
Wow.
lot. But yeah, it wasn't my favorite Basquiat piece. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
Okay.
I'm not for Basquiat's art. I love his art. I even got like I have freeform locks. Like I literally study, and that was a rabbit hole for me for a long time. Just trying to understand his story, his relationship to Andy Warhol, his career. But
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like cynically, a lot of people discount or a lot of people kind of discount like his personal achievements because of his partnership with Warhol on how he was also allowed in. He was like a person similar to how our experience in the gallery of like being there initially, then as of like a perception and appearance, then we were kind of invited in. Initially, he's kind of seen as like someone that was just a street artist that kind of just like got allowed in on permission.
Right.
But I feel like regardless of his circumstances and regardless of his talents, he would have made it in there.
Yeah.
But but just because of the way that life works, he was able to do it. Not to say that Andy Warhol did not help and progress his career. I feel like it was a mutual thing at that
Sure.
point.
Yeah.
Because Warhol had been an established person, but I feel like that deserves an episode, and I still have to digest my feelings on that topic and
Yeah.
that rabbit hole particularly.
I see.
Mm.
Yeah,
it's
that's one.
interesting how this episode has turned into a rabbit hole of subjects.
Yeah,
I
pretty
like
much.
that though. That's kind of our conversation.
I feel like that. I feel like
One
that's
big
meta.
rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the I'm not supposed to be here rabbit hole is basically like just taking bits and pieces of like the world around us and trying to unite it and see the common thread.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been honestly like enjoying the heck out of these. Like it's been a minute since we recorded one, but like listening to them in retrospect and then comparing them to like my thoughts and feelings like in the future is like so insightful, and
Certainly.
it really like even if like I love that people like listen, but even if like people don't listen, this is just good for my soul, honestly.
Absolutely.
I agree.
I mean, yeah, it's
I
just
agree.
good to create. whether people are watching or listening or
Yeah.
taking it in or not, it's good to put it out in the world.
Yeah. Because like I learned from the fine art exhibit, we're more when you're not here. He said.
Facts.
Facts.
Yeah, that is.
But shout
Yeah,
out.
it's
I,
a
won't
little-
I remember the gentleman's name from the art exhibit. I don't want to shout him out per se. 'Cause
Dox his ass.
I don't want to dox him per se, but he was a charismatic gentleman, and he like guided the gallery, and he made me feel pretty welcome in that space. Consider all things considered,
Yeah.
and that establishment was pretty good, especially for being in a Fifth Ave location, because he could have honestly just been like or discounted us, but he actually catered to our interests.
How old
Spoke
was
to
he?
me. He was like a middle age, entering later stage gentleman. He was like around
Okay.
60, like 50 maybe.
Okay.
So, but he was just a very like he was a very cool soul. I'd say.
Nice. After all.
What was
After all
your
that-
impression of him, Trent?
I mean, yeah. In the end, he was cool. He
Yeah,
was cool. I'll
yeah.
keep it
At the end of the
that.
day, we got to say that he was trying to sell us something. So
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you
yeah.
can only
Yeah.
gauge so much from someone that's trying to sell you.
No,
something.
but I can. Yeah, he probably seemed like he deals with a lot of people that waste his time.
Yeah.
as well.
But like, how much foot traffic can you expect is going to drop? Like,
he probably gets a lot of tourists.
probably-
which
yeah, he probably
I,
gets a lot of
I,
tourists.
2.6 mil on
Yeah.
I
Wednesday
understand
afternoon.
that. But I mean, he did get me interested in investing in art.
Yeah, I can see
Definitely.
that. I can
Yeah.
see that.
So no,
I feel like that's an interesting
he gets the
concept.
thumbs up.
Artists investing in art. That should be a topic in the episode, and how that in itself is like a weird
It is.
dynamic.
I think the most important thing is that we invest in our own art, though. But
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
I said,
yeah.
topic for another day. Yeah, all right, we're at the mark.
We're at the mark.
Very nice.
Thank yous, guys. Well, no, let's get final thoughts on rabbit holes.
Final thoughts. With
Final
Where
thoughts.
are we at with it?
Yeah.
For my own personal takeaway, use them for your benefit.
Yeah.
Because I think a rabbit hole can go south.
Like,
Yeah.
Something I wanted to ask you on is your like early YouTube rabbit holes. Trent.
Oh man.
oh, those are some dark sides.
Some dark ones.
Oh man.
Just people getting shot. And
Oh yeah, this
Oh,
was
man.
before YouTube. I can't believe I forgot about that. This was before YouTube was neutered, but we had this
Dude,
conversation a long time.
that was
ago.
like YouTube was like
That was when
live
YouTube was-
leak. Like
Yeah.
It was the Wild West. Yeah, I went one time. I don't remember where it started. I think I was thinking about Faces of Death. Are you familiar with Faces of
No,
Death?
I haven't even heard of that.
Mm-mm.
So, you're not either, Lucas?
No.
So, Faces of Death was like YouTube before YouTube. It was the internet before the internet. There's different versions of it, but essentially what it was a VHS tape of people dying, like in
Wow.
different situations, and in some instances, a lot of those were faked, but in other
Faked?
instances,
Oh,
there
they
were
were
actually
actually
some
real
real
clips mixed in.
clips. Like I remember seeing this this little girl, like when her mom crossing these train tracks before the train comes, and then the mom jumps back, but the little girl keeps going, and she
Oh,
gets hit
no.
and she flies. Yeah. So anyway, I believe I was thinking about that, and I may have listened to a podcast that referenced Faces of Death. But anyway, yeah, that started me down like a YouTube rap. No, I don't even think it was that. I think I saw something and clicked on something.
Yeah, and
That's
And
sort
it-
of, the
like I
related
said, the-
videos.
the-
it's
the-
like you
the
keep on
related
clicking,
algorithm type
and then
of
next
thing.
thing you know, you're looking at somebody getting in a protest, getting shot point blank with a shotgun, like in the chest. And it's not like you see in the movies. It's actually really sad. He didn't, like in the movies. A lot of times people getting
Cinematic
shot.
and-
It gets.
Glamorized.
It gets overemphasized. Like people fly. He didn't fly. He got hit, and he kind of like he was tired. He kind of slowed down and just laid down, and it was like really sad.
Wow.
But yeah, I saw like a whole bunch of clips like that, and left
Wow.
me depressed.
What-
Kind of like the nuclear one left me
Yeah.
depressed too, because
it's
It's coming face to face with death.
yeah, towards the end, it's I think the saddest thing about that, not to get back in it when we're about to end, but it was like they were talking about how the radiation, like it's better to get killed by the bomb instantly,
Yeah,
as
than the
opposed to how
radiation.
the radiation like fucks with you. Like it not only
I should do a nuclear bomb episode.
we
I would-
should, because like it's just
It's
crazy.
such a
to-
profound like object. It's such a profound thing.
Yeah, like the way the radiation affects you, like it your physiology, it just fucks you up. Like it changes your DNA, and the result is like, you know, when if you have kids, they can have learning disabilities or physical
The burns, the way
deformations.
that-
Like yes, like that's, and I think that's what made me sad. It's like, yo, like, because people are beefing over. I mean, really, war is not necessary, but
Yeah.
because people are beefing, like you're fucking up the future. Like you're hurting people who haven't even been born yet. I think that messed me up. But anyway, yeah, that was
Yeah, right at the end, oh gosh, Jordan, how long is this episode so far?
yeah. It's only 119 right now.
You want to keep on going? I don't even mind. Or is it going to be an issue to upload?
No, not at all, not at
Okay.
all. You got some more to say? Go ahead, speak on it.
Yeah, I don't know, cause like you said, like yeah, with war in general, especially with that, I feel like we speak about it in terms of like I was watching a Kurt Sagat video. They're like a highly like popular like YouTube channel that you probably see like cartoonish style, but they talk about like very deep topics, and they have multiple episodes on like nuclear bombs and whatnot. But they did mention like the concept that like war, it has happened across human societies, but the scale of it and the organization around it has not ever been like at this like point in the same way like across history. And like we speak about it as if it's an inevitability rather than like an issue that can be kind of skirted, curtailed, or avoided, which is like an interesting thing as well. But
yeah. Yeah, that's
But I won't go too much longer. I just wanted to say that part. But yeah, what is your final thoughts on rabbit holes?
I like what Lucas said. Like, 'cause I remember going down the rabbit hole and I was like trying to edit, and I was like trying to pay attention to both. Like, I wanted to look at the screen because I don't know, a lot of what people do is they'll put a lot of text. Like, it won't all be words. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you got to look up and read it. So I had to pull back and like just hit the pause button and just focus on what I was doing. Unfortunately. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
you definitely. I think it's definitely something, especially like if you notice, you know, you tend to go down rabbit holes. It's definitely worth it to take a step back and look at what types of rabbit holes and how they make you feel and how that's affecting you. You know,
Yeah.
and think about what that's saying to you. But yeah, definitely limit yourself.
Yeah,
With
can't
what
go on
you
an information
consume.
binge.
Yeah, because I've been, I know I had to sort of, especially as a black man, I had to stop with a lot of what I was taking in. You know, when it comes to police brutality and, you know, black
that's a
people
rabbit
getting
hole in
killed
itself.
in media. Like I had to, it was literally like seeing so much of it.
It's too
And
much
just
trauma.
trying to research it was making me like depressed, and I had to pull back from it.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
also in conclusion, it's very important. Your diet, your intellectual diet is very important.
Yeah,
so
you
be
are
careful
what
what
you
you
eat.
put into yourself and how you intake that. Yeah.
well said.
I'm sorry to keep on throwing wrenches in time, but what do you think about rabbit holes? Like, you guys are familiar with the story Alice in Wonderland, right? So like, what do you think that says? Like the theme of the story and how like Alice falls into the rabbit hole, enters like a new world, tries to find herself and like her way home. How do you think that relates to like today's theme of the episode before we close?
Recap that story real quick. Do you?
Yeah,
you
like
know it?
off the top of my head, I remember vaguely, but I think she has, because there's different tellings. I remember the movie.
Wasn't
a little
that
bit.
essentially about her taking psychedelics? Like, wasn't
Yeah,
that the-
but like, but
Inspired by.
yeah, she like kind of
Psychedelic.
falls.
But I know
into-
there's like a deeper message. than
yeah,
her
like she
getting
falls into the
high.
rabbit hole. Yeah, I feel like this kind
She
of
was stoned.
she
she
was
was-
just laying in her front yard the whole time.
Yeah.
took a bong rip before. Whoa! Saw the cat. The cat is trippy. I like the cat.
The cat
But-
is iconic.
Yeah, that is like an iconic scene. But yeah, and the Mad Hatter and everything. But I feel like
Or yeah, what was the story again?
that general sense of feeling. Basically like she falls into like this Yeah, I had to get the plot. Honestly, I shouldn't have brought that question up because I don't remember off the top of my head.
But
with
it's
the most
basically
clarity.
she goes through multiple different journeys to find her way home.
Yeah,
And it
essentially.
requires a lot of different attributes like bravery. You have to be intelligent. You have to be X, Y, and Z in order to get back to where she started, right?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
So I feel like that leading with that in terms of like how you go through individual rabbit holes and trying to make sure that you don't fall into the well of misinformation. That's my biggest concern with rabbit holes. Just
Yeah.
falling into a route of misinformation or becoming so like consumed by what you watch that you're so closed off to other opinions that are removed from your rabbit hole. Because like a
Definitely.
lot of times we go on these rabbit holes and we don't converse about them, but we hold the opinions very close and dear to our heart, and then we don't like speak with each other to like get us common sense. And then like we said in like the AI episode, you can end up with people being siloed into different corners and sections of the internet, and then that
Mhm.
kind of feels you like that makes a person very alienated
Right.
in their opinions and their sense of reality.
Mhm.
Because if we have like a shared, before it used to be like a shared network of information, like everybody got their information from like a few sources,
Mm-hmm.
and the sources were like fact checked. They were kind of like all put together, and then like you went to learn stuff, and it has this faults. Like learning stuff from one place is not always great
Mhm.
because then you could get
Always.
you can always get like you could lead into like a thing of ideology, but the new reality in the sense that you can get information from almost anywhere with like little to no fact checking.
Standards are very
Yeah,
low.
standards are very low, and like
Mhm.
what is news and what is not news is very difficult to gauge. So yeah, my thing is with rabbit holes like,
Tread carefully.
yeah, tread very carefully, lead intelligently. If you're taking psychedelics, be safe.
Be safe out there, listeners.
Yeah,
I don't know. I guess in a really very short, not looking at the story and knowing exactly what it's about, because I haven't seen that.
I haven't read
movie
it.
or read
Wow.
the story. In a
I just thought about it.
long
I was like, I
time.
felt like that was an important question to ask.
But I don't know. Maybe that's a question for. Maybe that's another episode topic. I don't know. We'll explore it a little more later. But essentially, what I'd see in relation to, this episode is, the idea of influence and being careful when learning. Not to get too influenced to the point where you lose who you are,
Yeah,
or you completely take who you are from that. Staying grounded, somewhat. That's what I
yeah,
would say.
getting lost in the burrow.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Copy that.
Any thank yous or shout outs?
Thank you to the people that do the work, that do the research and put up these videos and write the books, and the people who dig deep when it comes to checking all the boxes and making sure the facts and the entire story is told.
Yeah,
Cause
without omission.
because I'm here going down your rabbit holes, reading your books.
Right.
So
Appreciate
I
y'all.
appreciate you.
No, yeah, I think that's really a great point. Generally, an unsung hero is those who, put in the crazy amount of efforts for a 15-minute video and whatnot. So,
Yeah, because those
Yeah,
things
big ups
take
to
a
them.
long time. To
It's so
create.
hard to edit.
yeah,
It's so hard to edit.
yeah.
Oh, and thank you to the people who stand up and say, it may not be time to do that. Let's wait a little longer.
Yeah, shout out to the
Yeah.
unsung heroes that stop disasters by saying, no, that is not right.
Yeah, yeah. Y'all the real MVPs.
Literally
Y'all
have-
really know who you are.
Yeah. I feel like that's the epitome of the episode. Just like knowing where you are and knowing when to call it and being like, no. Because that's also a hard thing to do. Like if you have a lot of stakes and pressure
Yeah.
and you just got to be the one person to be like, no, when everything else is decentivizing you from doing so.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
All right,
Any,
y'all.
any other thank yous?
No, I'm all set.
I got one shout out. Shout out to the New York Times for making that rabbit hole series. It was a very good pandemic listen. It made me think critically, especially being a computer science major. and understanding the ethics and morality of creating systems and networks for people. And shout out to all the people that analyze and study systems so that I can study and analyze systems and human nature and the like, and just understand people more better.
Love to hear it.
But, well, that's been this episode of I'm Not Supposed to Be Here. You've been a grateful, invisible audience. Peace.
Peace.